What's up YouTube, this is Agent from Vanguard, and today I am doing a guest upload on Robbie-Kohl's channel, as you should already be able to tell from watching the video and seeing the channel. So first off, I would like to give a big thank you to Robbie-Kohl for allowing me to post this on his channel. I really appreciate it, and all of us at Team Vanguard also appreciate it, including, that would be meaning Basil and Q. And today is a deck profile. As you should be able to tell, it is of Nouvelle, or a Kagero deck, that is with the August 20th restriction on it. So that means we are no longer allowed to use, geez, words are hard, Lizard, Soldier, Conroe, and then we must use a different starter. The starter I chose to use is Red Pulse Strike Wicked. If you don't know what he does, he is a grade 3 searcher. So when you ride any Kagero over him, you move him back, and then you can add him to Soul, Counterblast 1, and search the top 5 cards of your deck for a grade 3. So let's go on with the profile. I've already explained the starter. Many people don't like it because it can whiff, and it's 4K, so it doesn't really attribute to the aggressive playstyle of Kagero sometimes. I know you have the choice of Dragon Knight Sadeg, which is when you retire an opponent's rearguard, you can add it to Soul, and then your opponent chooses a rearguard they control and retire it. I don't feel that card is good, mainly because I feel that this deck doesn't need the extra retire, and I would prefer to get the grade 3 or grade 4. Oh, something important to know about Red Pulse is that it says grade 3 or greater, so you can add the grade 4 Nouvelle to hand. That's why I run it. It's also good for a different combo later on. I run 6 crit and 6 draw. 4 of the draws are Gatling Claws, because Gatling Claw is fairly important right now. Post BT15, we'll see how important it is. I don't think it will be that important, but for now it is still a great card because it kills a lot of starters. And 4 heals. If you don't run 4 heals, I don't know what you're doing with your life. For the grade 1s, we have the almost obligatory 4 Perfect Guards. It's kind of self-explanatory. I don't need to explain them. And then we run 4 Calamity Tower Wyverns. This card came out in BT14, and it is a Luckbird clone, meaning when you place it on the rearguard circle, you can soul blast 2 cards and draw 1 card. The reason why we run this card is because we do have that 1 extra soul to work with through Red Pulse as opposed to using Conroe, and that +1 over and over again, built up over time, can be really, really good. And then since we are still running Nouvelle, we have only 3 Nouvelle Roman Dragons, because I am not running a full playset of Nouvelle in this deck, as I feel that a full playset would make this deck less toolboxy, and it would make it unprepared for certain matchups. And next up we have 2 Bar. Bar is never bad. You can hit 21 with Nouvelle, 21 with Dauntless if you have more rear guards, 21 with Dauntless Reverse when you're cross ride, and if you have a Bar column, you can hit 16, if you ever need to do that. And last card we have is 1 Gojo. It's mainly just for filtering purposes. Since we can't search out many grade 1s, we can't run as many tech grade 1s as we would like to. Next up, for grade 2s, we have 4 Berserk Dragons. Berserk Dragon is probably one of the single best cards for Kagero. It will never be bad, and I feel that 4 in the deck is really, really good. Even though this deck can sort of be counterblast heavy if you want to abuse Nouvelle's Limit Break, which does conflict with Wyvern, which is why we don't play it for the limit break. But Berserk Dragon just helps you kill your opponent's field setup so fast, especially against rushes. One of the ways to beat Nouvelle is effectively to rush it. But the problem is when they're running 4 Berserk Dragons and all of these cards counter a rush, if you rush Nouvelle, especially if they're running Berserk Dragon, you may not be in a great situation. And overall, it just gets rid of starters, Palladiums, other pesky grade 1s that you don't want to deal with. Next up, we have 3 Bellicosity Dragon. This is our damage on flipper if the attack hits a Vanguard, if the attack hits a Vanguard, if it's on the Vanguard or rearguard circle. So this is mainly used in combination with the Calamity Tower Wyvern on turn 2. So you'll ride your grade 1, ride your Bellicosity, use Red Pulse, and then call this, draw a card, and unflip a damage. It is extremely similar to the Aqua Force turn 2 setup, with the Penguin and Eric, except they don't run the damage on flipper. This is also really good because it sets up Berserk Dragon on turn 3 for you. Next up we have 3 Dominant Drive Dragons. This is the Dauntless 12k attacker. We are running an increased number of Dauntless units in this deck, i.e. Dauntless himself, Dauntless Reverse. We are running 6 of them in total. And this card is great for turn 3 rushes for you, because you can hit 12 when boosted, and say if you're going first, you ride to grade 3, your opponent has a 9k grade 2 on the Vanguard circle. We do run a lot of, we run a fair amount of 7ks and 8ks. We have Gojo, Bar, and Roman. So hitting 19 can really force damage to your opponent or make them drop their hand. And another reason why this is also great, we are running 4 Calamity Tower Wyverns. It is a 5k booster. As you guys probably should know, 5k boosters are considered extremely subpar in this game unless they have a skill that mitigates their 5k. Wyvern does that because we can draw a card off of it. This completely eliminates the 5k and says I can still hit for 17 and hit for great numbers. And that's one of the reasons why we run it. And last for the grade 2s, we have a Tech Nihalem. This can be exchanged for any of the previous grade 2s that I showed, aside from Berserk Dragon, because we're already running a full playset. You can exchange it for Bellicosity or Dominant Drive Dragon. I just haven't found the need to, because Nihalem, it is a solid ride, and it's basically just a vanilla. Dominant Drive, it's a 9k, so sometimes when you ride it, you can get rushed, or Bellicosity, you can get rushed, which is why we run Berserk Dragons. And I feel that in most formats, 10ks are never bad. If you can get it off on your ride, it's good. If you don't, then it's just going to be a beater on the rearguard circle that can hit 17 and 18, and it also does help you to hit cross-ride numbers at certain points when you need to use it to boost a bar. And overall, it's just a Tekken that can be replaced, but it doesn't necessarily need to be replaced. For grade 3s, we have 4 Dauntless Drive Dragons. This is probably, to me, this is one of the most key units in the deck. If you don't get this off in certain matchups, from my experience, you will have a slightly uphill battle. If you're facing Chaos Breaker, Dauntless is your best friend in the entire world. Really, against any matchup, Dauntless is your best friend in the entire world. It's not a bad card at all. It's never been a bad card, and we run a full playset because of that. And we can also search it up with Draco Kit. If you don't know what Dauntless does, it has a skill that says when a Kagura rides it and you have 4 more damage, your Vanguard gains 10,000 power, and a skill that says at the end of the battle that it attacked a Vanguard, you can discard 3 cards from your hand to restand it. So why this is key is because against certain matchups, you will need to continuously restand your Vanguard for large numbers to deplete their hand and advance your game state further. And certain decks that focus on locking, like Link Joker, and decks that focus on keeping certain units in their hand and not committing to their field early, Dauntless really helps against that, because usually in a game, if you have Dauntless and Vanguard, you can break right a Dauntless over, and then do a Dauntless again, and then do it a 3rd time after, once you get a Dauntless reverse in Nouvelle. But usually, if you do a Dauntless once, and then you break right a Dauntless reverse or Nouvelle over it as a finisher, you should be able to win the game then. But restanding Vanguards in this format are really good, and they really attribute to winning. That's why we run a full playset of it. Next up, we have 2 Dauntless Dominant Reverse. This card is a very underlooked card that came out in set 14 because it was outshined by Minerva and, what was it? Ezel Scissors and other cards. Especially Ashley and mainly just Minerva, but this card is really good. If you don't know, it is a cross-ride for Dauntless, so when you have Dauntless in the soul, you are 13k base. His skill is at Limit Break, you can counterblast 1 damage and lock 1 unit, and then he gains a skill for the turn. The skill says when you check a grade 1 or greater Kagero, essentially when you check a non-trigger unit, you choose 1 grade 1 or less rearguard your opponent controls, retire it, and you gain 3,000 power. The reason why this card is amazing is because when you break right on Dauntless, you can use its skill 2 times per turn. Not the locking skill, but the retiring skill. You have technically 4 chances because you have 2 twin drives equaling 4 drive checks to use it. But when you attack, you do 2 drive checks, and then you restand and you do another 2. So it mitigates the loss from Dauntless, making you not neg as much by popping your opponent's field and getting rid of their boosters. And one of the reasons why cross rides were always good is because they can use, well, cross ride decks were good if they could pop back row. This is a cross ride, and the cross ride itself can completely obliterate back row. In 1 turn, you can wipe out your opponent's whole field, not whole field, but you can wipe out all the boosters. And another reason why this is good is when you are finished the break right turn, and you were at cross ride, If you hit your opponent's Vanguard for 18,000 with his Limit Break active, meaning you have locked a unit, and they guard for a 15, which is essentially a 2 to pass, you can break through with a trigger and non-trigger. The reason why this works is because if we check a trigger, we can add it all to Vanguard, meaning we are now 23. And then if we check a non-trigger, we go to 26. And if they are an 11k Vanguard and they dropped 15, which is a 2 to pass, then we hit the same number that they guarded with and we deal damage to them. So it plays mind tricks with your opponents for them to be able to guard certain attacks. And overall, it's just a really good card. And it doesn't really lose to Chaos Breaker because you can just pop Palladiums and Lanthanims and Neons, and you mitigate your loss by making them lose cards. They may draw cards off of the one card you lock, but off that one card you lock, you can kill 3 cards. So them plussing 2 off you and you plussing 3, meaning essentially you just plus 1. So it's never really bad. Last up, we have 2 Nouvelle Vagues. This card is probably the bane of many people's existence because nobody likes it. And I can see why, because it's obviously a really good card. Its Limit Break is to Counterblast 3, Soul Blast 3, and Persona Blast, and then you wipe your opponent's field. So it's a field wipe, and a field wipe in any game is extremely good because you completely... most of the time you will just win the game when you do that. But the reason why we play it is because he has 2 other skills. The first one says, during your turn, all of your opponent's trigger effects are nullified. So that means they can't 6 damage heal. If they hit a draw, they can't add power. They hit a crit, they can't add power. This is only during your turn, though. And when he attacks a Vanguard, he has a skill of Silent Tom, which is regarded as one of the most broken grade 2s in the game, because your opponent cannot guard with grade 0s. There are many times when you're playing against somebody and they're only checking grade 0s, and you have a Dauntless. You have a Dauntless on Vanguard and a Dauntless and a Nouvelle in hand. And instead of going Dauntless over Dauntless and say you have a bunch of 0s, you go Nouvelle over Dauntless and you just outright win the game because they cannot guard. And it's also 13k base, so it's really good. It is a grade 4, meaning that you cannot ride it unless you have a grade 3 on the Vanguard. I'm not running a full playset because we don't have the same consistency as we used to with Conroe being able to search out Roman to swap out Nouvelle for the grade 3. So it does make the deck a little bit inconsistent, but Conroe being banned does not affect the deck's playability at all. The deck is still an amazing deck to play, and you can win many tournaments, and it's essentially you will never kill Kagero. So that's about it for the deck profile, and I really hope you guys enjoyed it. And once again, I would like to give a big thank you to robbie-kohl for allowing me to post this on his channel. Again, Team Nouvelle greatly appreciates it. And if you like my video, please subscribe to my channel, as I'm sure Robbie will be nice enough to put a link to my channel in the description below. And if you like Robbie's channel, please subscribe. Well, you should subscribe to his channel because his channel is great. He posts match videos all the time, discussions. And if you like the video, please like it. That's about all I can say. And sadly, a trend with my videos are SPs, so unfortunately we only have 1 SP in this video. But remember guys, that SPs are sexy, words are hard, and I shall see you guys later. Hopefully on my channel.